Today we're playing a game called Terraria, this time setting out to tackle Expert Mode. There's still everything that I loved about Terraria: crafting, bosses, different classes, and some new and old friends along the way. It's Frank! Frank is back! But everything will be much, much more difficult. My heart is beating so fast. This is 100 Days of Expert Mode Terraria. I quickly created a world and character and spawned into my first day in Terraria in nearly 2 years. I had pretty clearly forgotten most of the controls. I shanked this tree a few times to let it know who's boss before finding my axe to chop the wood for crafting. That was so much harder to cut down than it should have been. Not a smooth start. Hopefully my knowledge from my one and only playthrough comes back sooner rather than later. Remember the... oh man. Nope, that's not it. That is not a good sign. I crafted a workbench, stabbed our first slime to death for getting in my space, and then quickly crafted a sword to finish off the nearby slimes. I then crafted a wooden chest and helmet. Ah, yes, nothing stronger than wooden armor. Could you imagine the splinters? I crafted torches for my upcoming mining session and then started digging down. My goal was simple: upgrade my pickaxe to the highest quality I could so that I could then mine and upgrade my armor, ideally skipping the first few tiers. Luckily, some of the mechanics and enemy avoidance were already starting to come back to me. It stuck. I mined my first tin ore and kept heading downward. I avoided monsters where I could and faced them only if I had to. Okay, not bad. Okay, that was bad. At this point, I felt like my use of terrain and crafting was much better than last time, with the mechanics slowly coming back to me, but I would be humbled soon enough. While in the mines, I make a discovery that I somehow never made during my entire classic playthrough. Oh, I can just make more. I didn't know I could. I thought I had to go to game changer. I found my first platinum ore to mine, and sticking to my strategy of avoiding any and all threats, I kept mining ore and came across my first health crystal to increase my max health. Everything was going incredibly well. Here, ooh, I see this boulder. And then I heard the all too familiar sound. Well, first death of many out of the way. Back at the surface, I built my first stone house. You're not gonna roast me this time for my dirt houses. Last time I played primarily with melee. This time I wanted to channel my inner Robin Hood and focus on ranged, so I crafted arrows, and while building a furnace, I was stabbed in the back. Oh, Cody, you killed me. You should stay inside. No kidding. I smelted the ores into bars, crafted an emerald hook for mobility, silver pick, and a platinum bow. Let's try this bow out. Ooh, very nice. Get back, brother. After crafting a mix of tin and lead armor and more arrows, I headed out to the surface to explore. The enemies were strong, but I was able to take them out relatively safely from a range. That arrow eventually come back down? Oh, it did. I love that I'm already learning things that I didn't experience during my first entire playthrough. I found my first treasure chest. These can hold strong accessories and resources to help throughout the game, but this one was pretty bad. Although I did get a few recall potions, which are really helpful early in the game to get back home safely. I stole the chest and moved on. While waiting for a snatcher to get within reach, I used my own home-brewed recall potion to get back home very quickly. Back home, I built a treasure room, and then I thought it would be cool to build my houses for this run underground instead of on the surface. I dug some space underneath and started working on building the houses. I spent most of the day building 3 new houses and a room to store my crafting machines and storage in. After placing everything, I decided to make the outer wall stone to match the aesthetic of the rest of the houses nearby. You know, I can't mix and match the look. I still have PTSD from the first time. Setting back out, I left down the path that I made on day 1. I was feeling a bit more confident this time, so I didn't completely hide from all enemies. Well, maybe I should have. We'll pretend that didn't happen. I ran back into the same skeleton that killed me before. You know, I don't blame you for killing me, but I'm going to avoid you. Making it back to where I died to the boulder, I pushed forward to explore. After the last death, I took no unnecessary risks and avoided as many enemies as I could. And things were going pretty well. At least until I faced a large earthworm and was gently reminded to not get too cocky. I stumbled on my second treasure chest, and there wasn't anything great again, so I looted and kept moving. While running into an unminable ore, a fairy finds me and guides me to another chest, and it's another useless flare gun. Pressing on, I found several more ore deposits, and I spotted my second life crystal. While grabbing it, I spotted a treasure chest, which also doesn't have any accessories. Not a very lucky start. I grabbed another 2 heart crystals and noticed a spot with lava and water right next to each other. And knowing how important obsidian is for later in the game, I created a terrain path for the lava and water to mix together. It works like a charm. No, too much lava. I pushed more water to cool off the remaining lava, and then realized my current pick isn't strong enough, so I recalled back home. I upgrade my picks to platinum, which is the strongest one I can currently get. I make silver boots, buy a piggy bank to store my money, and then remembering something that I saw in a speedrun video that I watched just after posting my first playthrough, I bought a bunch of dynamite. I turned some cobwebs that I had into ropes, which will help make my fast travel method possible. Let's see if I can figure this out. Yes, that's perfect. And that is another thing that I never realized I could do in playthrough 1. I mined down and extended the rope a good way initially, and then it was time to fast forward my downward descent. All right, let's see how well this works. Oh, perfect. I believe it was a elevator. Here I come. I continued down, extending my rope and throwing dynamite to clear a path straight down. After running out of dynamite, I threw the few bombs that I had as well, and then running out of rope, I returned to the surface. Using the money I made from blowing up all of the enemies nearby, I restocked on dynamite, crafted some chains, and then headed back down. I excavated deeper, but when trying to jump back to my rope, I fell and was quickly killed. I ran out of bombs near a mine track and decided to explore for a bit. I made my way back to the spot where I previously made the obsidian, and with my upgraded pick, I was able to mine it. Oh yeah, now we're cooking with lava. I led the rest of the lava to the water with absolutely no close calls at all. I knew I would need quite a bit whenever it was time to make accessories like the obsidian charm or the molten armor from the underworld, so I mined as much as I could in the area. I then set back out exploring and was looking for 2 things. Oh man, I could really go for finding some accessories. I was looking for accessories or platinum ore so that I could craft the best armor that I could at the moment. With my upgraded pick, I was able to mine some demonite ore along the way as well. I won't be able to use this for a while, but still nice to have. I drank a recall potion to return home. I think for the first time this entire run, I crafted an obsidian charm and then used the guide to see what I could craft with demonite. So my biggest takeaway from my last run was to check the guide for everything. There are so many upgrade lines that I completely missed, so I'll be using him for everything that I can. And I did that plenty throughout this run. This time checking for both obsidian and demonite bars. This one needs shadow scales. I don't know where those come from. I guess I'll just keep an eye out for them. I bought more dynamite and extended the crater. After using the few dynamite that I had, I explored to the left. I made it to a huge water and lava pool, which gave me more obsidian than I think I mined in the entirety of my first playthrough. While mining the obsidian, I started playing the floor is lava, but lost. I resupplied myself with dynamite, and I was back on my way. I came across another treasure chest, and this one had a godly flail. Just 1 accessory, that's all I ask. After running out of dynamite, I came across a huge grouping of platinum ore. I think this has to be one of the best early game feelings. Just coming across a giant cluster of a high tier ore. After mining most of it, I rode my rope back to the surface and crafted a platinum chest and silver helmet. I loaded back up on dynamite, and back down I went to dig out my elevator some more. Evil presence is watching. I'm not ready for a boss. And not even 30 seconds later, I finished my elevator and am face to face with an underworld imp shooting fireballs. Oh no. Oh no. Uh-oh. I'm not ready for this. That didn't last long. The whole thing had Hannah the nurse questioning her entire life. Hannah, are you okay? After gathering myself from the horrific sight, I headed back to exploring. But this time I decided to use a spelunking potion to help me find useful ore and treasures while exploring. And this thing is amazing. It helps me find loads of ore, is what I would say if I survived long enough. Ah, no, that was so short. This is why I hoard resources in games. However, surprisingly, the 30 seconds is all that it took because I had enough platinum to craft a helmet to help increase my defense even further. That's the king slime fight, right? Wonder if I can take him. I extended the stone blocks upward to try to keep a safe distance from the slimes and set up wood platforms over the edges. This is so nice. They don't have a chance. I almost feel bad. While cheesing the slimes, I created a small arena to try to help once the king spawned. And while I was able to cheese the small slimes, honestly, I shouldn't feel too bad because it wouldn't take long before the king boss himself spawned. All right, here he comes. Oh, wait. Can he not get up here? Is the wall too tall? Never mind. Maybe with a more proper arena I could have taken him, but as it is, I got slimed. Getting right back on my feet, I extended the arena, and that's when the Eye of Cthulhu spawned and humbled me for the second time in one night. Oh, it feels like everything moves so much faster in expert mode. That was so bad. Trying to think of any way that might make these fights more manageable, I pulled out the godly mace I found earlier to see if maybe that would help. I bought more dynamite before realizing that my elevator was basically complete. While I'm here, I might as well explore and see if I can find anything useful. About that time, an underworld worm spawned, and that must have been my 13th reason because I opened the door to let the lava in and died. Yeah, expert mode is going to be a challenge. Having successfully completed the elevator, it was time to start exploring out sideways. I started feeling like I was getting the hang of the ranged weapon. Okay, I think I'm starting to get back in the swing of this. I spotted and mined a few health crystals. I found another unlucky treasure. Another flare gun. I need accessories. I then came across an enemy that I'm not sure I ever faced in classic mode. Ooh, is that a wizard? Okay, maybe my aim hasn't gotten better. I must have stunned Tim with my poor aim because after I hit him once, he didn't move anymore. But just look at how many shots it took to kill him. It felt like I was hitting him with a wet noodle. Ooh, look at all that demonite ore. Oh, that's not demonite ore. It was in fact a granite biome in which I found a treasure chest where my good luck streak continues. Another flail! My bag was full, so I figured I'd do the responsible thing and teleport home. After storing my inventory, I jumped back down the elevator to look in the underworld for any helpful upgrades. And I was immediately greeted with bats that nearly killed me. Having escaped, I went to catch my breath, and an imp teleported to me. See ya. Oh no, he's back. I may have handled the first one, and then a second one, but the third took his time, lined up his shot, and made it count. I decided I would explore the surface a little bit more now that I was a bit stronger. RIP to the old me. I pushed past where I was previously killed, and things may have gotten a little chaotic. Oh my, did you see that arrow come back down to kill the slime? It did in fact happen, and it was pretty cool. I built a bridge over the water and reached the edge of the map. And totally paying attention and completely unprovoked, I returned home. I headed back below the surface, but this time I stopped to explore about halfway down so that I could more comfortably kill the enemies when needed. I used a spelunking potion and got to work. This time I'll be careful. And never mind. I was determined to explore the area, so I headed straight back. Nice and easy. Oh, a poison trap? Not today. What's in the... Oh boy. I went back to open the chest after my humiliating double death. And what did I get for my hard work? Another flare gun. Yeesh. I spent the rest of the day and almost the next exploring. I found a few chests, a heart crystal, this money bag thing. This thing. Oh, it's money. Getting a bit more confident, I'm now able to take more enemies head on. I reached the dungeon with unminable bricks. I make my way to another chest. Come on, I just need a good item. Okay. These boots will actually be very helpful. After all of the enemies that I took out, the thing that finally ended my mining spree was a singular bat. That's alright, I needed to clear my inventory anyways. Upon spawning, I had the boss spawn text, letting me know that I needed to prepare for a fight. I quickly upgraded my boots to platinum, and the boss was there. Alright, here goes. Speed feels good. Getting hit, but it's not really doing all that much damage. I kited the boss around as well as I could, while continuing to shoot arrows at it. Everything was going pretty well, at least until this. What is that? Oh no, I don't remember this at all. The boss gained a dash attack, and this attack took me completely off guard, which led to some very stressful moments. The stress finally got to be too much, and I jumped straight into his mouth. No. That was a better attempt, though. It's doable. I spent the morning extending my arena so that I'd have more room to run. While I did get close last fight, I ran out of space and fell several times. After extending my arena out and up, I extended the top row way longer so that I would have a really good runway for the fight. I placed a few campfires for extra HP regen, and I have to do this right this time. Big arenas, campfires, potions eventually, I'm gonna need it all. And then with the arena ready, all that was left to do was wait for nightfall. I explored underground while waiting and found a magic mirror to replace my returning potions, and in the span of about 30 seconds I found 2 health crystals, and it was time to summon the boss. I used an archery potion and medium stat improvement food and started. Things were going much better with the platform length, and the first phase was actually a breeze. I had barely taken any damage when he switched to phase 2, and I got trapped in the mini eyes that he spawned. Luckily, the damage wasn't too heavy, and I was able to clear out the eyes and get out. I was able to outspeed his phase 2 attacks for the most part, but as his health got lower, he started spamming the dash attack. You know, there's something... Oh man, he's spamming it now. I guess I'll have to hit him while he's doing it to get any more damage. And doing just that with perfect accuracy, I was able to take down the first boss in the game. 17 days in and 1 boss down. I'll need to pick up the pace if I want to have any chance of beating the Moon Lord within 100 days. For beating the Eye, I was rewarded with a loot bag. What's this? Shield of Cthulhu. Melee damage, defense. Ooh, allows me to dash. Sounds really good for mobility. Whoa, that acceleration is nice. I didn't realize it at the time, but this accessory is a mobility staple for most of the game. And a quick spoiler alert, I never ended up replacing this accessory, even towards end game, except on a few select fights. I might have a boss takedown, but that doesn't mean I'm not too strong to die to a self-mined boulder. Back on the surface, I spent the rest of the day making 4 new houses for friends to move into. I decided it was time to explore the corruption area to start working towards the next boss. Momentarily forgetting how to deal with the corrupted terrain, I tried hammering it, but had no luck. I then remembered the bomb method I used in my first playthrough. I cleared a bit of space and found a really nice long corridor. I destroyed my first 2 orbs and got the ball of hurt from the second one. Oh, perfect for the next boss. A fairy came and led me to a heart crystal, and while working towards the 3rd orb, I had this whole sequence where I was slowly building blocks up so that I could use the bombs to clear the space upwards. Let's just say it was a struggle. Finally! There has to be an easier way to do that. I finally made it to the 3rd orb and destroyed it, and I thought I was able to teleport home and the boss would stay with me. That was not the case, and he despawned. So disappointed in my performance, I just free fell down the elevator and caught a corner and died. I made my way to the scary underworld to try to mine Hellstone, but I didn't have a strong enough pick to mine it. Since I was unable to mine ore to upgrade my armor, I returned to the corruption area and built a long platform for my next attempt at the boss. With all of the enemies that spawned, it took a while to build, but eventually I was happy with the length and carved a path to destroy 3 more orbs. After destroying the 3rd orb, I ran back to my platforms and was already taking a lot of damage. But I was also dealing a lot of damage in return. I was able to get the worm to about half health before falling off my platform and getting finished off. Guys are much harder than expert. That wasn't bad, and it definitely wasn't good. For killing some of the segments of the worm, I picked up some shadow scales, which is the material I've been missing for crafting demonite equipment. Curious about the Eye of Cthulhu's drop table, and to feel strong enough to kill a boss, I summoned the eye one more time. Trying out my flail, it helped me to be able to easily destroy these small eye spawns, but it was much slower to damage the boss. For phase 2, I switched to my bow to deal with him more quickly. Chipping away at his health, I finally got him down to 500 HP, and like a vampire, he flew away at the first sign of light. I returned to the corruption and extended the platforms out further to give myself even more runway. While bombing my way to the next orb, I killed enough enemies in the area that I got a shadow helmet as a drop, which is the armor that can be crafted with the shadow scales and demonite. After killing just over 100 Eater of Souls, I got a shadow chest plate drop too. I almost have the full set. Maybe that would help me take this monster down. I destroyed the 3rd orb again to summon the boss and took some considerable damage early. But I also pumped out a lot of damage. There were some incredibly close moments, but I was hanging in there. The worm was down to 1500 health, and I just barely missed a health potion window and died. No. With a surplus of shadow scales, I crafted a demonite pick and boots to complete the armor set. I dove into the underworld where I mined some hellstone to start working towards molten armor. Between the bats and the lava generated from mining the hellstone, I didn't last very long at all. I dove back into the underworld, and this time I made it a little while being able to get slow and steady hellstone, and that's when I saw this NPC. It's the voodoo doll one. It took me hours to find him during my last playthrough. The voodoo doll that this NPC drops is used to spawn the last normal mode boss, the Wall of Flesh. I'm not ready for him yet, but having the item now saves me a grind later. Getting out in the open, I was swarmed with enemies and died once again. When I spawned, I was greeted with the Goblin Army event. I was able to take out each goblin pretty quickly, but there were so many that I was also taking pretty constant damage. A few close calls later, I was finally killed by an archer. When I respawned, the event didn't clear, so I knew I had to keep going and clear it. I used the nurse to heal whenever I was low, and spent most of the day slowly but surely clearing the goblin army. After finishing, I checked my inventory for any drops. Let's see what we got from that. Well, not really anything. It was then time to fight the gigantic eye again, and I'd absolutely demolish him without needing to use a single potion. Opening the loot bag, I got another shield, so I guess that's the only drop he has on his table. I head back to the corruption, feeling pretty confident that I could take the boss this time. With my new pick, I'm able to mine corruption, which makes it a little bit easier to reach and destroy the 3 orbs. I was definitely able to destroy the 3 orbs with absolutely no problems at all. First the death, and then a second goblin army spawned. Oh man, not again. I was using the same method as last time, healing at the nurse, when tragedy struck. Oh no, Jenna! Oh, I'm so sorry. I spent half a day fending off the goblins, and then it was time to return to the corruption. I destroyed the last 2 orbs to spawn the boss. I was quite a ways from my arena, but I was able to eventually make it there. I took quite a bit of damage early, and was just not quite able to get healed enough. This time dying with the boss around 3000 health. I set back out immediately to find more orbs to destroy, but no matter where I looked, I couldn't find any. Finally, after using several explosives to clear a lot of ground quickly, I found another orb. Is it actually possible that I broke all of the orbs? Why would I summon him then? I stumbled onto another treasure chest, I mined the boulders above it, and the poison trap beside it, and still blew up. Not again. Before finding any more orbs, I had the message that it was raining slimes again. Round 2. I quickly took out the spawning slimes and eventually was faced with the king. Using a mixture of the flail for ads and arrow for easy damage on the king, I was eventually able to take him down. I got a slime mount and a slime grapple hook. In my entire first playthrough, I never used a mount. It'll be a very important part of this run eventually, but for now it's just equipped and never used. A bit lost on how to fight the worm again, I started checking the materials from the area on the guide, and I found out I can make a summoning item, but I needed vile powder. Vile powder. No idea how to get that. I headed back to the corruption area to start looking, and found a treasure chest, a few heart crystals, and the second orb. I was now only 2 hearts away from max health for normal mode. I searched for nearly 2 full in-game days for the last orb before moving on and exploring the ice biome that was next to it. I found a chest with ice skates. Ooh, nice. No more jump scares after falling on breaking ice. I made my way to a demon altar to craft an item that would summon Snowpocalypse. I extended my top platform all the way to the snow biome and summoned this weird looking deer thing. And let's just say it wasn't much of a fight. Oh, I've been eternally humbled by this mode. I went back to the corruption and looked one last time for the orb, but no matter where I looked, I couldn't find it. Lost on where to go or what to do next, I explored the area just above the underworld. Things were going pretty well until I missed my hook 2 times in a row and caught on fire. I teleported home, so at least I could die in the comfort of my own town. Anytime I'm stuck and need a good think, it's nice to build something. So I made 2 more houses. I dropped back down the elevator and was swinging from the top of the train like Tarzan as I was searching for a Hellforge and anything else useful that I could find. It didn't take long before the enemies caught up with me, and I died. Does anyone out there have a death counter? This is rough. I decided to head out to explore the world to the left, looking for the dungeon. Oop, Nobody saw that. Looking for the dungeon, which is where the next boss would be fought. When I found it, I spent a little time setting up a small arena and then spawned the boss and got demolished. Oh boy, do I really need something to fall my way. It is a pain looking back and seeing just how stuck I was. I remembered a B-boss during my first playthrough that dropped items that were good at swarming big enemies. So I headed to the jungle to look. I found several chests and this goblin that was tied up. He ends up being super important for progression because he sells the items that allow me to combine accessories and allows me to reforge items for better substats. But before I could buy anything from him, the enemies relentlessly attacked me and I ended it all with a boulder. It feels like boulders are my most common cause of death. Back home, I bought the Tinker's Workshop and the rocket boots and got to work combining the accessories that I could. I made a GPS and Spectre boots, missing only one item from being able to upgrade them into lightning boots. Woohoo! I forgot how much I liked these boots. Just before heading out, a goblin army spawned again. Yeah, I'm not doing that. I'll just ignore it. While avoidance works for now, it will come back to bite me later, but for now, I head to the jungle to look for the queen bee. While exploring, I was able to survive my first boulder smash, I found some flippers, found the last heart that I needed, and then in the next chest, I found the missing accessory that I needed for my lightning boots. By complete choice, I returned home to combine them. After crafting the boots, I headed back to the jungle. You remember when I said I needed something to fall my way to turn the playthrough around and get it back on schedule for 100 days? Yeah, this wasn't it. I spent the next 4 days carving out every crevice of the jungle looking for a bee spawn. There was one good thing that came from it though. It's Frank! Frank is back! Oh, I've been working on a railroad forever and a day. Please, it has to be here somewhere. After almost 4 full days carving out the jungle, I finally die. Is it possible that a beehive just didn't spawn in my world? Am I just wasting my time? After a long and unfruitful mining session, I saved and quit for the night. When I spawned back in, I was surprised to find that the goblin army was still there and didn't despawn after a day or so. What happened? How did my base blow up? Why are they still here? I guess I'll have to take care of them. I spent the night fending off the goblin army since they are apparently like that friend that can't take a hint and overstays their welcome. I spent the next morning fixing the broken houses and then headed towards the corrupted area on land to see if I could find anything to make the worm summoning item. I found a few vile mushrooms and went immediately back home to check with the guide to see what they could be crafted into. I needed bottles to make the vile powder. Bottle, I need a bottle. Do you have any for sale? While checking with all of the NPCs, a blood moon spawned. This was just not my lucky run. I spent the night fending off the blood moon monsters. They weren't difficult, there was just a lot of them. I had a gap in monster spawns, so I went back to finish checking with the NPCs, and although I didn't find one selling bottles, I did find one that was selling the vile powder that I needed. Finally, something goes my way. And then as soon as I was done fending off the blood moon, I guess I spoke too soon about something going my way. I learned my lesson about not facing my problems head on, so I stuck around and fought them off too. My spoils of war was another vanity item. Oh, a top hat. Let's try it on. Yeah, looking dapper, my guy. Maybe the enemies will be too stunned to attack. Looking fresh, it was finally time to take on the Eater of Worlds again. I crafted the summoning item, potted up, placed a campfire, and then summoned the overgrown earthworm. I don't know if it was the potions, the top hat, or Frank's moral support, but I absolutely demolished the worm this time. Oh yes! You have no idea how good that felt. Finally! Let's see what we got. 17% less damage. Whoa. That sounds pretty significant. Definitely equip that. With the worm boss taken down, I headed back to the jungle to search for the queen bee. This time searching a bit lower towards the lava to see if maybe they were just further down. Oh my god, no way. Isn't it? It exists. As I was mining my way inside, oh no, I'm not ready. And I gave it my best shot, but sometimes your best isn't good enough, and I died. Oh no, 500 hours to find it, and it only took 30 seconds to die. Once I spawned, I ran straight to the guide to see what I could craft from the stuff that I gathered from the hive. Come on, please tell me there's a way to summon the queen bee. That's it. Honey block, stinger, hive, bottled honey. I just need to figure out the honey block and the bottled honey. I had my mission, so I headed back to the beehive to try to find the missing items that I needed. I mined most of the hive, hoping that something would give me a honey block. And while mining the side of the hive, I accidentally mined into an opening and slid down a honey waterfall. The honey slid down and connected with the lava. Huh? What did that turn into? A crispy honey block. I bet it got burnt from the lava. So I guess that regular water could make the block that I need. So I set out to find water that I could lead to the pool of honey. Here goes nothing. Ooh, that sound is promising. I think it worked. I couldn't get away from the enemies in the area, so I went beside them in a pool of water and just mined to the honey. Oh, yes! I grabbed my empty bottles and went to fill them with honey the same way that you do water for potions. With everything I needed, I crafted the summoning item and then went to work building a small arena in the beehive. I placed a campfire for health regen and noticed that when I was in the honey, I got even more health regen. With the arena set, I potted up and ate a burger for a major stat increase, and then summoned the queen. I was able to move around the bee pretty easily, but had some early trouble finding a reliable way to damage her. I eventually settled on using the flail when she stopped to summon bees and the bow when she was moving around. Every once in a while, I would quickly dip in the honey pool to be able to keep the increased HP regen as well. Everything was going really well until she started doing her dash more frequently. This was harder for me to dodge, but I eventually got a pretty good handle on it. No, so close. After I respawned, I headed down the elevator to look for a Hellforge again now that I had rocket boots. I found it relatively quickly and teleported out. I crafted 9 Hellfire bars and then used those on the guide to see what I can make. Oh, there's a lot of good stuff with these bars. Armor, Imp Staff looks pretty cool for summons, pick, and a bow upgrade. I filled up some bottles with water and already had the other ingredients needed to make 2 obsidian skin potions. I headed straight back down to the underworld. I drank the obsidian skin potion and got straight to work. I mined at the bottom of the map for the full 4 minutes that the potion was active, and once it ran out, I teleported home and was able to make 78 Hellfire bars. I crafted a full set of molten armor, a molten pick, and the molten fury bow. At this point, I also started looking into how to craft my own potions. With the difficulty being so much greater than classic mode, I figured I would need a stock of potions for all of the bosses that were left. I made some thorn and iron skin potions and then headed back to the underworld. I had one more upgrade on my mind. I didn't need much more, so I mined a few places and then headed home to craft the Imp Staff. Something that I learned really late in my first run is that summons are able to stay along with you even if you don't use the same weapon. So it's just pure extra DPS, which will be very nice. Since this was the first time I might use a little mana, I turned my Fallen Stars into Mana Stars, and I went from 1 to max. I didn't realize I had gathered so many. With the massive upgrade, it was time to go take on the Queen Bee one more time. I summoned my demon, potted up, ate my food for a medium buff, and then summoned the boss. Using the same strategy of bow when she's moving and flail when she's standing still, I was able to get her pretty low pretty quickly, but once she got low enough, her dash was even faster and much harder to dodge. At that point, I pushed to finish her off as quickly as possible. Legendary Beekeeper. Sounds fun for melee. Ooh, bee nades. Wait, I still have quite a bit of time on my potions. Might as well fight her again to see what else drops. Working quickly, I managed to kill her a second time relatively easily. I quickly checked the loot and then realized that I still had a little bit over a minute left on the buffs, so I summoned the queen one more time and restarted the fight. I had gotten her down to about half health when my potions started running out. With the second half of the fight being unbuffed, I had my work cut out for me. By this point, I had a pretty good idea of all of her attacks and moves, and although it was closer than the other attempts, I was still able to kill her. I pulled another bee gun and other miscellaneous items. Still searching for more unique items, I potted back up and summoned her one more time. The bee's knees. Ooh, wooden arrows turn into bees. Might be really good for the wall of flesh. Returning home, I dumped my inventory and it was time to head back and face Skeletron again. Placed a campfire, extended my arena a little bit, and then potted up. All right, here goes. I think I like the bee arrows. Seems like it's doing, uh-oh. Oh no. No, I'm stuck. Well, shoot. Running low on potions, I spoke to an NPC back at home and bought some planter boxes. I cleared out a space with a platform above it and placed my planter boxes. By the time I finished placing them all, flowers looked to be growing, so I assumed the seeds were already in the planter boxes and left. And spoiler alert, that is not the way that planter boxes work. I eventually figured it out, but it took way too long. I went back to the dungeon and extended the arena up another 2 rows and out a fair ways to give me more room to move around to make sure I don't get stuck again. Jumping off over the dungeon, I landed on some burning ground that after mining it, I realized was meteorite. I don't think I found a meteorite spot for my whole first playthrough. I spent a while mining most of the meteorite from the ground and then decided to explore underground for a bit. I found several chests. Most of them were pretty bad or duplicates. After getting a full inventory, I teleported back home. I feel like I'm doing that a lot more this run than using the death taxi that I used last run, but I might be delusional. Back home, I decided to check my herb status and thought I killed one by attacking it before it was ready, so I left the rest. Needing a bit of time for my imaginary herbs to grow, I decided to build more houses. And at this point, I had it down to a science. I really understand now why they do cookie cutter houses. It takes all of the think work out of it, and it becomes much easier to build quickly. I made 6 more houses and then extended my sky bridge further to the right until I made my way onto some clouds. The harpies here were a bit too much for me, so I jumped off and headed to the ocean at the edge of the map. I used a water breathing potion and explored along the ocean floor and was able to find a few chests. Nothing really notable inside of them though. I even explored in the biome below the ocean, but didn't find much there either. While exploring, I came across a place that I only know of as the name of Shimmer. Still have no idea what this crazy pool of liquid does, but it's here, I found it. I explored most of the next day too, and didn't find anything notable from the entire trip. After right around 3 full days of exploring the underground, I finally returned to the surface voluntarily. Oh no, I didn't realize I was that close. I checked on my imaginary herbs and then made a few more potions before heading towards the dungeon. At the dungeon, I still had a little time to kill, so I extended the platforms a little bit and added torches throughout to make sure there was plenty of light. I potted up and summoned the boss. With the extra space, it honestly wasn't too bad. The bees from the bow were nice at swarming the hands while I focused on dodging the skull. As long as I didn't get stuck in the middle of his spinning skull attack, I wasn't taking too much damage. I chipped away at his health, eventually pushing him to the second phase. The bees were doing great, but oh no, it's like I got sucked in and couldn't move. I spent the rest of the night taking on enemies from the Blood Moon, and after that I went back to exploring underground to look for more accessories that I could use and combine to get stronger. I wasn't finding anything, and then was killed by a boulder underwater. That is a first for me. After spawning, I decided to check with the guide on a few items. I wonder if I can use these extra hearts for anything. Whoa, wait. There's another type of regen increase? I crafted 3 and then headed back to the dungeon. I placed the heart lanterns in my arena, and it was time to re-challenge Skeletron. This time with better movement and focusing on staying out of the way of his spinning head attack, I was able to slowly chip away at the boss and eventually killed him with plenty of health left. I opened his looting bag and wasn't too impressed with any of the items, but it was now time to dive into the dungeon. I took my time exploring, slowly killing monsters and using the gold keys they dropped to loot the locked chests nearby. I found several good items, including a flail upgrade and a shadow key, which allows me to open the chests in the underworld. Shortly after, I fell into a collapsing pit of spikes, and the entire sequence is just so bad. I ended up taking an express trip back home. Since I was already home and I had the shadow key, I decided it was time to dive into the underworld. I explored a large portion of the underworld, opening several chests, with the most notable upgrade being an immediate upgrade to my new flail. The next exciting upgrade was a new friend. Oh, look at him, he's so tiny! Frank, we've been on 2 great adventures, but it's time for you to rest. It's Squeak's turn for an adventure. Oh, look at him floating with me. I returned to the Undercity and explored the other direction this time. I didn't find any notable upgrades from the chests, and I was eventually able to make my way to the edge of the map, so I decided to head back to the dungeon and see if there were any other upgrades that I could find. I'm not sure if there's anything else here, but I want to make sure to check now, because once I trigger hard mode, I imagine things will be much more difficult. I made my way through, massacring enemies and opening every locked chest that I could find, the most notable find being this cobalt shield, which makes me immune to knockback when worn. This is super helpful throughout the majority of the game to make sure that you don't get stuck and die. After almost a full day, I got sloppy and ended up dying to poison. I combined my obsidian charm with the shield to make an obsidian shield, and then it was time to head back to the underworld. Whee! I love the elevator. Once there, I set out to create a straight platform across the underworld in preparation of facing the final normal mode boss, the Wall of Flesh. Digging through any obstacles in my way and draining lava when I reached it, I worked my way what I thought was a good ways across the underworld, and then I was impatient and ready to attempt the boss. I equipped my beehive pack, made sure my B-nades and dynamite were on my quick access bar, and potted up. The fight started off pretty well. The B-nades seemed to really help take out the little guys attached to the wall. I switched to my Bee's Knees bow, and it seemed to be okay since I didn't have to precisely aim it, but the molten bow also felt pretty good at dealing damage. The dynamite that I remember being a game changer during my classic run didn't really seem to do anything at all to the boss. The fight was going okay, at least until I ran out of runway, and after that it was over very quickly. When I spawned, I checked on my fake flowers again, and since they still weren't ready, I got a little suspicious. I took some daybloom seeds and planted them all in the grass next to the planters. I planted some corruption seeds thinking that they were deathweed seeds, and then I took off with my staff of regrowth looking for daybloom. I found a few plants, but after it was dark, I didn't really have that much more luck, so I planted the 10 additional seeds that I found from harvesting as well. It was then time to extend the wall of flesh runway to give myself much more room. I repaired the areas that were damaged from the dynamite and was working on extending the path until I died. Since I was back home anyways, I decided to check with the guide, see if there's any way to craft additional B-nades because I burned through them pretty quickly. I can make them, I just need this and a grenade. I bought grenades from the gunsmith and crafted as many B-nades as I could. After potting up, I dropped the guide off the ledge. He may be gone, but his soul will live on. And with that exciting eulogy, the fight was on. The fight started out normal. I used the B-nades to clear the little chomper guys, and then since I was eye level with the boss, I used my Molten Fury to shoot arrows at him. As he got low, he was getting faster and faster and faster. Oh no, I can't outrun him. And just like that, the wall of flesh was defeated, meaning hard mode had begun. This is the point where I started struggling some on my first playthrough, so I can only imagine what horrors await for me in expert mode. Bone Hammer, Demon Heart. Ooh, I get an extra accessory slot? That's insane. 54 days in and only just now getting to hard mode. I had a lot of work to do to finish in 100 days, so I had no time to waste. I teleported home and took off running towards the corruption. I used the Pwn Hammer to spawn in several sets of ore, and that means it's time for a mining spree again. I decided to start looking for ore by flying along the top of the underworld so that I could avoid as many of the new enemies as I could. And even that didn't go that well. Initially, I was only able to mine palladium, so I knew I wanted to upgrade my pick as fast as possible. After dying, I smelted the ores into bars and checked with the guide to see how many it would take for a pick. I forgot all about the drills. I love their mining speed. That's so exciting. While looking for ore, I set off a lava trap that dumped lava all along my walkway. I tried adamantly to block off the flow, but got too low in the process and died. These aren't even the hard enemies. I finally caught a break and found several palladium ore, so I teleported back home to quickly make my first drill. On my way back down the elevator, I saw this guy. Could you imagine? You step off and then all of a sudden you're just free falling to the pit of the earth. Even with the new drill, I wasn't able to mine titanium yet, so I set out to find the next level of ore available, orichalcum. While searching the underworld, I ran into a mimic that just absorbed my shots. After approximately 1,000 shots, he finally died. Finally. Philosopher's Stone. Reduce potion cooldown? Yes, please. I searched until I reached the edge of the map. I then returned home and dropped back down after drinking a spelunking potion to try to find the orichalcum ore more easily. I found a few small deposits, but in true TLSG fashion, once I had the spelunking potion active, I died. I crafted an orichalcum forge and then headed back down to find more ore to make my drill. I drank another spelunking potion, and this time I found loads of palladium, but not much orichalcum. And since I drank a spelunking potion, you know what time it is. Dying time. After respawning, I noticed that my planted dayblooms were almost ready to harvest. I crafted a full set of palladium using the melee mask for now, so that I could have the highest defense possible. I dropped back down and drank another spelunking potion. And at this point, I just need to stop. No, not again. I decided it would probably be safer if I just returned to the underworld to search for the orichalcum ore. It was going well until a rune wizard showed up and decimated me. On spawn, I didn't quite have enough orichalcum bars for a drill, so I had to head back out. I found a few more deposits, headed back home, and made my new drill. With the upgraded drill and the location of several titanium clusters known, I headed back down to the underworld. I faced another mimic who dropped a dual hook, so I finally replaced my emerald hook from the start of the game. I then reached the edge of the map, so I returned home, upgraded my hell forge into a titanium forge, and smelted the rest into bars. And then getting impatient, I headed to the corrupted area to spawn a lot more ore. Is there any reason not to just spawn all of the ore I can? I'll just crush them all. After destroying several altars, I returned home to a party and received some cake. I returned to the underworld and found loads of ore this time. I killed my third mimic, and it dropped a lucky cross necklace. This necklace will be very helpful in some of the later fights, but for now, I don't need it. I returned home, and while emptying my inventory, I get 2 notifications. One, that it was going to be a terrible night, and the other that it was a blood moon. I was helping my NPCs fend off the enemies when the twin spawned. No, this is not going to be good. 64,000 health, and the fight indeed did not last very long at all. I headed back to the underworld, determined to finish off my mining adventure. I found a little bit of titanium and eventually faced a corrupted mimic. Oh, okay. He can just come through the solid blocks like that. I wish I would have been able to kill him, as I'm sure he had some pretty good loot, but maybe next time. For now, I crafted a titanium chestplate and then decided to explore midway down the elevator with a spelunking potion. And to my surprise, this time it actually went very well. I ran out of time on my first potion and used a second to keep mining ore. Found a Bast statue in a chest in the desert. Yes, I was hoping I would find one of these again. Extra defense is so needed. My second spelunking potion actually runs out as well, so I used a third. Ooh, what did that do? Increased armor penetration? I'll be taking that. I find some chlorophyte ore and realize that I can't mine it yet. The jungle enemies were a bit scary, and I figured I had enough titanium by now, so I recalled back home to craft. I crafted boots in both the range and melee helmets, and with my extra titanium, I crafted a repeater for a sizable upgrade from the Molten Fury. With my best current mineable gear finished, I returned to the Wall of Flesh to farm some drops. I potted up and spawned him. I started with the bee's knee bow, and it was okay. But once I switched to the repeater, his health just started melting. Look at that HP go. I quickly dealt with the boss and picked up the Ranger emblem. I'd like to get one for melee too, so I ran straight back to the edge and started the fight again. And another Ranger emblem, so I summoned the boss once again. This time I used Hellfire arrows, and the fight was over before it even began. I got the warrior emblem drop that I wanted, but I was curious if I could kill him even faster than that. And at this point, it might as well be bullying with just how much I'm picking on him, but this fight was over even faster than the last. With the bullying out of my system, I head to the sky to see if I can get Souls of Flight to craft a pair of wings. I find a chest with a balloon in it and then get humbled very quickly by a wyvern. So I put a pin in that for now. I craft a cloud in a balloon, which allows me to jump higher and have a double jump, which is nice. I checked what I could make using the Souls of Night that I picked up while mining ore and spot an upgraded flail, the Tao of Pow. To craft it, I needed a dark and light shard. So I head out on land to see if I can find a biome that might have them. Right next to my spawn is a biome that has pixie spawns, and just past that is a white sandy area. While digging downward, an enemy called a light mummy dropped above me. I took them out and explored underground. Oh my god, look at them all. Any of them reach me, I'm dead. Okay, let's try it. I slowly but surely killed every single one of the monsters in the cavern below me. I got a little too confident and got absolutely leveled. I made it back to the light desert and picked up a light shard from the light mummy. I teleported home to now look for a dark desert, and I kid you not, my very first mummy kill, I got the dark shard drop. I crafted the Tao of Pow and reforged it for a massive melee weapon upgrade. It was then time to farm souls so that I could craft the summoning items for the mechanical bosses. I started by trying to backtrack where I got them from while I was mining in the underworld. I wasn't sure if it was linked to a certain NPC or a certain area, so once I found one that dropped, well, I died. When I got back to the surface, I had enough souls to craft my first mechanical worm item, and in preparation, I worked on extending my arena 9 extra platforms high, all the way up to the top of the map where you lose gravity. I got humbled pretty quickly by a wyvern, I got revenge on said wyvern, and then had enough Souls of Flight, so I took a look to see what wings I might be able to craft. I finished setting up my arena with a heart lantern, my sharpening station, and a Bast statue. I already had 20 of the 99 needed pixie dusts for the fairy wings, so I set out to farm the rest. While farming the pixies, I also fought a few unicorns that dropped unicorn horns. I spent most of the morning farming the needed dust and then crafted the wings. Ooh, so much more control. I tried to take on the destroyer and, well, he lived up to his name. I went to farm Souls of Night for a while as it seemed like it was going to take a lot to take down the mechanical bosses. I farmed several and eventually returned home. Trying to find any improvements that I could, I checked with a guide and realized that I could make holy arrows using pixie dust and unicorns, both of which I got earlier while farming for my wings. I crafted 1,000 holy arrows and then extended my highest platform as I vaguely remembered the worm not being able to reach me in my first playthrough. I caught it up and summoned the destroyer once again. It worked and he wasn't able to reach me, but I wasn't able to reach him either. I built a 2-width platform to shoot down from. This was somewhat working, but the lasers were still obliterating me. And that's when karma got me back for trying to cheat the boss. A wyvern swooped in and decimated me. Definitely my least favorite hard mode enemy so far. I decided to go out and look for herbs, and found a moon-charm drop just before dying. I equipped the moon-charm, which made my melee stronger at night, and it turned me into this cool looking werewolf. I headed back out to try the charm and fought some pretty cool enemies. And oh yeah, I died again. I feel so weak to everything. I wasn't sure what else to do, so I went underground. Wait, why does that remind me of that guy from Donkey Kong Country? I think it was one of the crocodile guys when he gets hit. Sounds exactly the same. I found a few chests and then died. These aren't even bosses and they are absolutely destroying me. How do I expect to kill any of the mechanical bosses, let alone the Moon Lord? Yeah, I don't want to talk about it. Looking for Dayblooms specifically, I explored all the way to the left of the map, teleported back home, and while sorting my inventory, it dawned on me. I actually have to put seeds in these planters. I grabbed my Daybloom seeds out of the bank since that's the herb I needed the most of and it's in the most potions. And finally, I actually have a small herb farm ready to grow. I even extended it a little bit so I could grow more at a time. I then set out to loosely explore without an exact idea of how I could get strong enough to beat this next boss. And let me tell you, Expert is so unforgiving. I crafted a few potions, and speaking of potions, while checking with the guide, I realized I could now make greater healing potions, and I either had or could easily get all of the ingredients that were needed. Using what I already had, I crafted 27 greater healing potions. Knowing that I would need to make more of these, I killed a few fairies on the surface, and then returning home, several of my Dayblooms were already harvestable. That was so fast. Man, that would have been so nice ages ago. Having little time to kill before I could attempt the boss again, I constructed 6 more new houses. It was then time to pot up and take down the mechanical boss. Never mind. That fight still wasn't going my way. Those of you noticing how much I'm struggling, tell me how many total days do you think it's going to take for me to be able to beat the Moon Lord? I'm starting to doubt that I can get it in 100 at this point. I spent the rest of the night extending one of my platforms out much further to the side to give me a good runway. Oh man, whenever I have better gear, I'm gonna bully you so hard. I crafted 2 more mechanical worms and set up the bass statue and heart lantern near what I hope to be my cheese spot. I then head back to farm Spirits of Night while waiting for nightfall. Well, never mind. I guess I'll extend the mid-level skybridge while I wait. I summoned the worm and the platform idea was working well. I was even able to dodge and start taking care of a wyvern that spawned, but eventually it was too much and I was hit by the head of the worm and died. I think I'll extend the area lower and hopefully never see a wyvern again. If I could get a fight without one of those, I think I could probably do it. I potted up, including potato chips for a minor stat increase, and I want you to take note of how much ammo I have when starting this fight. I started the fight and the worm could reach up to me sometimes, but the majority of the time I was able to focus on just pure DPS, either him or his ads. There were some pretty close calls, but I slowly and surely chipped away at his massive HP of 120,000. Uh-oh, holy arrows are gone. Ooh boy, second ammo's gone. Third ammo type. I was up against a low ammo supply, and I was also running out of time as he would despawn somewhere around 4 or 5 a.m. Almost. Yes! Finally, I feel like I've been stuck for ages. I looted the worm and checked what I could craft with the hollowed bars. I definitely didn't have enough for armor, but it did look like I had enough for a weapon. My eyes were on the mega shark. I just need to figure out how to get shark fins and illegal gun parts. While checking with the NPCs for someone to sell illegal gun parts, I found that the gunsmith now sells an ammo box that gives a much needed 20% chance to save ammo. I picked and replanted my Dayblooms, and at this point I won't mention whenever I craft potions, but I'll constantly have a stack of thorns, swiftness, regeneration, iron skin, and archery for boss fights. Looking for the shark fins that I needed, I dove into the ocean area and mined below it, looking for any enemy that might drop them. I made it all the way down to the underworld without finding any, so I teleported home and tried out the other side of the map. I dove into the ocean here and came across a shark enemy. I farmed them long enough to get the fins that I needed and then returned home. That was one of the ingredients. Now to figure out the illegal gun parts. I checked with all of the NPCs in town again in case their inventory changed daily, and I was able to find them from the gunsmith. I crafted the Mega Shark and then realized I would need bullets and not arrows for it. Crystal, chlorophyte. From farming Souls of Night, I already had 64 cursed flames to make what looked like the second strongest bullets in the game. I tested out using both crystal and ichor bullets and was extremely happy with them. Ooh, that's so nice. I set out to farm a few items. First was crystal shards that were used in both greater healing potions and crystal bullets, and the second, Souls of Light. I had plenty of Souls of Night, but had yet to find a farming spot for Souls of Light, and I would need some to craft the summoning items to take down the last 2 mechanical bosses. I eventually found the area I needed and stuck around to farm as many as I could. I stayed for nearly an entire day before returning home. I crafted a few mechanical eyes to summon the twins and a mechanical skull for Skeletron, and then set up my fight arena. I placed my ammo box and drank my potions and then started the fight. After an absolutely grueling fight, I got him to about a quarter of the way down before finally dying. I spent the rest of the night and most of the next morning extending my sky bridge all the way to the left side of the map and a long way to the right. The hope was that I could run the eye all the way along the path to outrun him and get easy damage on it. I then reforged some of my gear, and after a million tries, I ended up with guarding on my boots, fairy wings, and my shield of Cthulhu. I ate my food, potted up, and died to a wyvern. That is not a good sign. I respawned, potted up, and started taking on the boss. I was somewhat able to stay out in front of them, and it was tight, but was going okay. I ended up pushing one of the eyes to the second phase, and that's when he got much faster than me and came in for the kill. Whoa, why was he so fast? How do I even dodge that? I was trying to think of any edge I could give myself against these next 2 mechanical bosses. So I headed to the jungle to hunt for life fruits, which would allow me to extend my max health beyond the original limit. After about a day and a half, I ended up finding 7 life fruits. I figured I would come back later once more had a chance to spawn. I set out to craft more greater healing potions, as my regen potions were almost gone. I made 15 with the resources that I already had, and then went to take on the twins once again. I spawned them in, but the eyes were split apart, so I wasn't able to kite them, and the fight was over before it even began. The fight was fast enough that I figured I would try my hand at the Skeletron fight, see what I was working with there as well. And as long as I didn't get caught in his headspin attack, it was going okay, but as soon as I got caught, it was all over. I went to farm pixie dust for greater healing potions, and that's when I got the drop that turned the tides of this entire run. The Blessed Apple. The Blessed Apple allows me to summon a rideable unicorn mount. I equipped it, but up to this point, I had never used a mount in my 70 hours of playtime, so I had to check the settings to figure out how. Pretty fast. Oh wait, I can attack from my mount? Oh, this is so cool. No way, a double jump? Needless to say, I was a little excited. Oh my god, it goes even faster. Oh, I love this. Wait, I wonder if this would be able to outrun bosses. Take one of the unicorn run strategy. Let's see how it goes. It started off okay. They spawned split again, but that wasn't as big of an issue this time. Oh god, did I just outrun them? Did they despawn? Okay, no, we're good. Oh wait, we're not good. Not good. Oh. After the tough start, I was set. Dash backwards while peppering the eye as much as possible. And I was running fast enough that I was dodging most of their attacks. The first eye quickly got brought down into his second phase. And although he was incredibly fast, I was still barely able to outrun his sprint speed. Well, that is, unless I slow myself down, then it definitely wasn't pretty. A few close calls, but I eventually was able to destroy the first of the twins. I slowed way down to let the other eye catch up, and then I tried to stay a good distance away to keep attacking while not letting it hit me. I reached the end of the sky bridge, and that is when tragedy struck. Oh no, not again. Oh boy, I need backup. I brought the second eye to his second phase and was still kind of on edge from my previous close call, so I got extra cautious, making sure I kept a very healthy distance from the boss, and that's when it happened. No, he was so close. Oh, well. It at least serves as a proof of concept. While settling down from the loss, I realized that the ammo box and sharpener are indefinite buffs while I'm alive, so I relocated them to the base for use on each spawn. I spent the majority of the morning in the jungle hunting life fruits and ended up only finding 3 before cutting it a little too close and heading home. I finally extended the sky bridge all the way across the map so I could have maximum running room for any boss. That night I potted up and was hopeful about taking down the twins. The fight started off well. I quickly got the first eye back to the second phase. I hit the edge of the map before finishing off the first eye though, and ended up taking too much damage and died. The clock is ticking on 100 days. Not sure how many more attempts it would take to kill the bosses. I farmed some souls of light until I could resummon the twins. This time I started at the very edge of the map. They started split, but I was able to fix that without too much issue. As the fight progressed, the second phase of the first eye was still giving me trouble, and I died. Man, I had it the first time. If I just didn't despawn him. One more time, I can do it. Since I was using a mount, I figured I would try using the cross necklace to increase the invincibility after taking damage in place of the obsidian shield, since knockbacks weren't really much of a thing to worry about. I reforged it and ended up getting warding for +4 defense. I spent the entire day fending off these creepy creatures, and around 10 PM, I finally broke away to summon the boss. This time I got a running start before using the item, causing the eye to spawn on the right side of me. I was getting pretty good at dodging the first eye acid shots while still pumping in damage. Eventually I pushed the first eye to the second phase, and he stopped almost immediately to do toxic spray, allowing me to put a lot of damage on him. After 2 more charges, I was able to take out the first eye without having had to use a single potion yet. And now it was time for the second eye. I took this part slowly and steadily. I prioritized taking a little damage over staying too far away from the boss. Eventually I pushed the second eye to his second phase as well. And that's when disaster struck. No, not a wyvern. Luckily the second eye doesn't do insane damage, because even after a few wyvern hits, I was able to take him out and then turn to finish off the boss without too much issue. Yes! Finally. Honestly, I think I almost despawned him again in that last stretch. I took a look at the boss's loot and what I could craft using the souls that dropped, but nothing looked great that I had the items for. I restocked on my Ichor bullets and then roamed around the jungle until nighttime looking for more life fruit. Oh, that was some nice damage for 1 hit. Ah, come on, he's emoting on me now. I ended up only finding 1 life fruit. With a little more time to burn, I reforged my worm scarf until I got warding on it for +4 defense as well. I got into position and potted up before summoning Skeletron. I skipped using food. I remember thinking that I likely wouldn't get very far on this attempt while I was still learning his new moves. And throughout the fight, it didn't seem like he gained any new moves compared to his non-hard mode counterpart. I ended up just kiting him back and forth in a relatively small area. The boss could keep up with me at full sprint, but as long as I was able to not get caught in his spinning skull attack, the damage was manageable. The spinning skull attack also gave me a very easy target of his head to do lots of quick damage. Even as he got low, he didn't really get any new attacks, and just like that, yes, the same day as the twin kill, finally. The mechanical bosses were down. Plantera, here I come. I opened the loot from the boss and then crafted the upgraded minecart kit with 3 pieces. I then crafted a Drax that would allow me to mine chlorophyte ore. I upgraded my emblem to the Avenger emblem, granting a flat damage boost instead of a specific damage type. I then headed to the jungle with 3 main objectives. Number 1, to find and mine chlorophyte ore. The idea at the time was to use it for armor. Number 2, to find life fruit to finish maxing out my HP. And number 3, to find the elusive Plantera bulb that would allow me to summon the next boss. I used a spelunking potion and got to work mining all the chlorophyte ore that I could. After my spelunking potion ran out, I returned home. I used my 2 life fruits and smelted the ores into bars so that I could see what all I might want to make. Doesn't really seem like there's much of anything except turtle armor for melee users. I used my hollow bars from the mechanical bosses to craft a full set of hollowed equipment. I switched from a melee helm to a range helm and went from 65 defense down to 51, but my attack went up dramatically. It was then time to head back to the jungle. Finding life fruits were nice, but the main goal now was Plantera. Finally deciding to use my ranged weapon over my melee flail when fighting off regular enemies, I died very few times while exploring. I explored the jungle for the next 2 to 3 days. I was able to max out my health in this time, but I just couldn't find a Plantera bulb. And then just as I was about to lose hope, no way it exists. Okay. I have to be careful not to pop this before I'm ready to fight. I immediately started digging out the space around the bulb. From my first run-in with Plantera, I knew that I would need a pretty big arena to kite the boss around in. Oh my god, Jesus. Oh, the jump scare. that I was accidentally going to summon it. Once the platforms were built, I added in the campfire, heart lamp, and bast statue. It was then time to try my luck at Plantera. If I was to have any hope of finishing in 100 days, I needed these next few bosses to go very smoothly. Ah, there she is. I remember you. I was able to kite Plantera pretty well and was taking relatively low damage throughout the fight. That is until I reached Plantera's second phase. Oh my god, what are those? I don't remember this at all. Oh no, not good. Oh, good first attempt at least. The first thing I did when I got back to the jungle was remove the sides of the platforms so that I had a way to fall off, which would allow me to drop much faster. It was then time to set back out looking for another Plantera bulb. Eventually I was able to find one, so I created a path from it back to the arena. I was prepped and ready and spawned the boss for round number 2. I had plenty of time to get back to the arena before Plantera reached me. This time kiting was much easier as I could just drop off the side, run across, and then back up. I also downgraded ammo to crystal bullets, thinking the exploding shards would help take care of the little piranha plants that spawned in phase 2. The bullets didn't really seem to help, but the quickness of dropping off the sides of the arena helped immensely. I was taking some constant damage though, so it seemed to turn into a DPS race to see who would die first. It was incredibly tight, but my heart is beating so fast. Oh my god. 12 days left to finish the last few bosses. You think I can do it? I opened the boss loot and none of the equips really seemed all that great. Keeping up the pace and progress, it was now time to head to the jungle temple. Luckily in my search for life fruit and Plantera, I basically found the entire perimeter of the temple. I decided I would craft some chlorophyte bullets. Homing bullets? Don't mind if I do. And then headed to the jungle. I set out to mine and search the perimeter for the entrance and luckily found it pretty quickly. I remembered the temple being pretty tough in regular mode, so I decided to take it nice and slow, nearly dying from one flamethrower hit. While progressing through, one chest had a danger sense potion that I used to help find the temple's many traps. This made traversing the temple quite a bit easier. It made it easier, but not perfect, as the enemies still hit like trucks, and there were a lot of them. The second time through, I traveled much faster, avoiding as many traps and enemies as I could. Even exploring the new areas, the goal was the same: traverse quickly and avoid as many enemies as I could. I made it to a room with a load of flying snakes and died pretty quickly. The next attempt, I went ahead and used another danger sense and made my way through the temple very quickly. It took me a while to realize, but the last room I died in with the snakes was actually the final room of the temple, which is why there were so many enemies there. I started building an arena and blocked off the entrance so enemies could no longer make their way in. I blocked off the traps on the roof and the dart traps along the ground as well. I then built a second level to my arena, and remembering the Plantera fight, I trimmed off the sides to allow me to freefall as needed. I completed the arena by placing my campfire, bast statue, and heart lantern. It was then time to spawn the boss. I decided to use my chlorophyte bullets against the boss as they were homing, which would allow me to do constant damage and focus on dodging. Things were actually going really well, with his punch attack being fairly easy to dodge. Once his fists were killed, I was able to focus on his body, and now I just had to dodge him and the fireballs that he shot. This was incredibly easy, but it got a little bit more difficult once the boss reached around 2/3 health when he also started shooting laser beams. Even that wasn't too bad once I knew to expect them. As his health got lower, these attacks started speeding up, but as long as I kept moving, they honestly weren't too bad. When he dropped to around 1/3 health, his head detached from his body, and it actually got quite a bit more difficult to dodge successfully as the angles changed dramatically. His health was dropping fast, but there were a few times when I got caught up with either a brick or his body and took loads of damage. But no matter how many close calls I had, I was still managing to hang on. Just barely. And then with around 2,000 health left on the boss, I finally got stuck. I'm only just now realizing, but I ran out of chlorophyte bullets midway through the fight, largely because I never clicked the ammo box when I spawned. Had I had the extra chlorophyte homing bullets, I think I would have been able to take him down on the first try. I crafted more chlorophyte bullets and headed back to the temple. I quickly navigated through the temple. I built a blockade around the tricky bricks at the bottom to make sure that I didn't get stuck there again. I then started attempt number 2. I blitzed through the first and second phases very easily, and this time I found a new rhythm for the third phase that reminds me of old school Mario where you run underneath Bowser. I would kite the golem to the side and dash under him when he did a big jump. This made dodging the lasers and his body quite a bit easier. It got a little dicey towards the end with a lot of projectiles on the screen at once, but I was able to finish him off. Yes. Thank gosh. One step closer to closing out expert mode in 100 days. I looted the items and got a golem eye, pickaxe, and HP regen if I was standing still. There was now only 2 bosses standing in my way from completing this run, the first being the crazed lunatic. He gave me some trouble in normal mode, but he has attack patterns that aren't too crazy once you learn them. I ran straight to the lunatic's dungeon and summoned him. I already had a big arena that I thought would be good enough. His attacks took me by surprise, but luckily they weren't doing insane damage. It was, however, at this point that I started feeling like my bullets were just spitwads through a straw, just slapping the enemy and falling off. His clone attack was the most important attack in the fight for me to get right. As long as I hit the correct one, then the damage was manageable. But if I was to hit the clone, it was game over. Not only did a duplicate cultist spawn, but a wyvern would spawn as well, all while the regular attacks were continuing. I made some slight modifications to the arena, and then had to wait for the cultist to respawn. I killed this flying saucer so that an invasion wouldn't start. No thanks, there's no way I'm equipped to handle that right now. While waiting for the cultist to respawn, I decided to explore the dungeon again. I found a bewitching table that would allow me 2 summons, and then got decimated. I respawned the lunatic, this time trying out chlorophyte bullets, so I wouldn't have to worry about aiming. The first time he spawned his clones, I attacked the wrong one, and at that point the fight is as good as over. I teleported home. I didn't realize the one that I needed to attack had the yellow stripe on his hood. I thought it had to do with the lighting, but in the days to come, this gave me lots of trouble. After my third loss, I farmed the materials from spiders to make the queen spider staff to allow me to have a sentry summoned as well. I spent the next 8 days attempting and failing at the cultist. By my 5th or 6th attempt, I had the clone attack down, but kept making small mistakes like accidentally dashing into one of the clones while trying to reach the real one. While running back one night, a UFO flew off without me killing it, which spawned the Martian invasion. When it rains, it absolutely pours because I died a lot. This was a true test of my resolve because no matter what I did, boss fight, farm, invasion, it felt like I was just getting absolutely obliterated. The invasion took about 32 hours to clear, but I finally managed to finish it off. That took forever. Brain scrambler mount. Try it out. Okay, it's pretty fast. No double jump. It takes off faster than Unicorn, but it has a lower top speed. An anti-gravity hook. Let's try. I mean, it's kind of cool. I don't really see any great uses for it. And that's it. Man, what a waste of time that was. Little did I know it wasn't a waste of time, and the Brain Scrambler mount was actually really cool for certain uses. I'll figure that out later, though. I went back to attempting the Lunatic, and it was going better, but something silly always happened with one of the clones that caused me to lose the run. Taking too long to get to the clone, my summon attacking the wrong one, an actual wyvern spawning mid-fight, each of these with about a day gap in between while waiting for the cultist to respawn. I'm not sure I can actually do this. Looking back now, had I just unsummoned the minion, I think I would have been much better off, but I kept trying every single day. I got rid of the dash shield to make sure that that mistake didn't happen anymore, and I stopped summoning my demons for the fight. While restocking on cactus for my potions, I noticed this colorful bug. When I killed it, this super trippy boss that I've never seen before spawned. What is this? What? Well, I definitely died. Next time I summoned the Lunatic after taking off the dash shield and choosing not to summon my demons, things went much better. I was dodging his attacks and attacking his clones much easier, and even pushed him down to a second phase where he gained 2 new attacks. Things got pretty dicey once he got down to a few thousand health. Clutch dodging some of the attacks and trying to chip him down, I ended up accidentally flying up to space where gravity was low. Around that time, he separated out and spawned his clones. I couldn't get over to him in time, and he spawned the dragon, and that's where I died. No! That was so close. Oh my god. I think it was, what, 2,000 health left? Feeling like I could finally have the chance to actually kill him, my sentry shot his clone when I was too close to the ground. Each attempt I was getting much further than before, but I still hadn't been able to pull it off. My next attempt, with his health down to 8,000, I took a series of back-to-back-to-back bad hits with his stars and died. It was disappointing, but I was getting so close now. Not sure how I'll handle the Moonlord if I can't handle the cultist, but we'll take it one fight at a time. The next fight, everything started off well. I quickly got him down to the second phase and was relatively healthy. This phase slowed way down as I started taking damage, and there were so many other things on the screen that my homing bullets were hitting. Yes, yes, finally. And finally, it was time to tackle the pillars. I spawned in on top of the solar pillar, and if I thought my bullets felt like noodles before, they definitely did now. I remembered Vortex being the ranged pillar from my first playthrough, so that's the one I target first. Now, I could have sworn that on my first death, I had gotten the pillar below 100 of 100, and it reset, so I thought on expert mode I needed to defeat the entire pillar without a death. So I started playing it super conservatively. I ran the sky bridge on my unicorn mount, and once I got outside of the zone of the pillar, I teleported home and restarted. I did this for most of the day before deciding to try the brain rot mount. Since it had faster initial acceleration, I thought maybe it could help me jump over or dodge enemies to kill them faster. It has an attack? What? The attack actually seems like it's doing some crazy damage too. This attack did in fact pump out some crazy damage, and it helped me steamroll the enemies and open up the pillar for damage. I was able to blitz down the pillar and take down this first one without dying after my initial death. I immediately went back to see what I could craft, and it was between the Vortex Beater or the Phantom. I placed the Ancient Manipulator from the Lunatic and then crafted the Beater since I already had bullets for it. The next pillar up was the Stardust Pillar, as it would give me a sizable upgrade from my demon summons. Oh my, this gun feels good. Maybe it's just the mount damage, but either way, these guys are melting. I learned the hard way that the pillar kill count doesn't reset even in expert mode. Oh no, the kills didn't reset? Oh, this will be so much easier now. It took a few approaches, but I was able to take down the second pillar pretty painlessly. I crafted the Stardust Dragon Staff. Yes, welcome back, old friend, you OP son of a gun. The next pillar I targeted was the Solar Pillar. This one I knew not to jump or the flying earthworms would target you. But honestly, with the dragon summoned, that didn't really matter as they were dead before I even saw them. I was able to blitz through the solar enemies thanks to the trifecta of my gun, mount, and summon. Without a single death, I took down the pillar and went back home to craft the Solar Eruption. I then headed to the last pillar, and honestly, it felt a bit like cheating with how strong all of my things were. When just a few days ago, I felt like I couldn't kill anything. I was attacking the Nebula Pillar and died for the first time on it as the pillar was exploding, which is night and day compared to my classic run. I quickly returned home to prep for the Moonlord that was about to spawn. As he spawned, the initial damage didn't seem too terrible until this laser attack. Oh my, that was so much damage. While taking some time to think about how I might be able to beat the Moonlord, I went to the dungeon, and where I was dying to the enemies and their attacks before, now I didn't even have to shoot or move. My dragon took most of them out, and the ones that it didn't died to my mount. I did this for the rest of the day, farming some gold and enemy drops. Knowing it would take me several attempts to be able to kill the Moonlord, I went ahead and spawned the Lunatic again, which would re-trigger the pillars and give me more items to use to create summoning items for the Moonlord. Honestly, I just wanted to see how much easier he was now with my upgrades. His health dropped so fast compared to the fights before, and I was able to kill him without even breaking a sweat. It took just over one day to kill all 4 pillars, which meant it was time for my second attempt on the Moonlord. The fight itself was going okay, but this beam attack was just faster than what I could fly. In classic mode, I flew around his head, but even that was inconsistent, but it was much less punishing when missed. I crafted 3 summoning items for the Moonlord, and while checking with all of my NPCs to see if there was absolutely anything they sold that would help me, I noticed this crystal guy. Wait, why are these kind of awesome? Massively increased life regen by itself is amazing. Extra summoning damage on top of it? Wonder how hard it'd be to get 50 defender medals. Well, let's find out. I bought the portal and the crystal and set it up on the sky bridge ready to go. Even by the end of the first wave, I was getting heavily pressured. I made it to wave 2 but had lost a lot of health on the portal. Oh wow, that's not good. Did I even get any medals for that? Probably not. I in fact did not get any medals, but I didn't give up. I talked to the crystal NPC and got 10 free defender medals. With those defender medals, I bought a ballista rod as a sentry and a new crystal and restarted the waves. The ballista helped a bunch, and I was able to get through the first wave with a lot more health on my crystal, but it still wasn't great. In the second wave, I made it almost all the way through, but ended up taking too much damage and died. I started my next attempt with a small arena to help me avoid some of the damage and the lowest tier lightning rod. I was able to make it through wave 1 with 100% health and crystal health. Wave 2, the crystal still took quite a bit of damage, but I was able to make it through the wave. Oh man, I forgot about my mount. I bet this helped so much. And yeah, I'd say it helped quite a bit. Using the mount, I was able to clear wave 3 and 4, but my crystal died before wave 5 started. Making it this far actually allowed me to get some medals as a reward, and so I started my next run ready to dominate. This time I started with a ballista away from the crystal on one side to help fully defend that side, and I spawn killed the enemies on the other. I was able to just walk through waves 1 and 2, and at the end of wave 3, I took a little too much damage and died. My next attempt started the same way, ballista on one side, spawn kill the other. I was able to take on waves 1, 2, 3, and 4 this time. Wave 5 I nearly cleared, but it got a bit too hectic with boss health level mobs starting to spawn. Almost cleared that one too. Steady improvements, that's all we need. Over the next few attempts, I steadily refined my approach, eventually stacking all ballistas on one side and spawn killing the other, making most of the early waves completely trivial. I invested 15 metals into the second tier ballista cane, which doubled the damage that each sentry did. Oh wait, did I get a new pet? A dragon? I love it. I think you'll be Aragon. With the upgraded ballista and morale from Aragon, I was able to fully clear wave 5 and start taking on wave 6. The crystal ended up taking too much damage in this wave, but a new personal best. My next attempt, I started with my piercing melee weapon, which helped even more, and I didn't need to farm bullets anymore. With this, I was able to clear wave 5 with a very healthy crystal left, and I cleared wave 6 for another new personal best. On wave 7, a giant dragon spawned, and honestly, I have no idea how to beat this thing with my current gear and setup. Maybe upgrading to tier 3 sentries, but for now, this was the best I could do. But I was consistent at it. Clearing that far gave me loads of medals. I had 65 in total. I found a war table that would allow me to summon an extra sentry. I used 50 medals to buy the Valhalla Knight's breastplate, which brought my single piece armor up from 15 to 24, and it increased my summon damage and provided a massive increase to my life regen. I did have my eyes on one more piece of armor from the shop though, so I took on the challenge once more, clearing wave 6 comfortably and dying to the dragon on wave 7. With that run, I had enough medals to buy the red riding legs, which were also a massive improvement. I'm pretty certain that Shroomite would have also been an upgrade to the hollowed armor, but I have no idea how to get the crafting table to make the Shroomite bars. The red riding legs gave 16 defense, 25 summon damage increase, 10% increase range critical strike chance, as well as 20% increased movement speed, compared to 11 defense with 7% increased damage and increased movement speed. I think these were another major upgrade. Wait, a pet gato? Oh, he's so cute. Sorry, Aragon, you didn't last long. I'm Team Fleur now. How have I went this entire game without finding... Oh, it's a light pet? Hold on, I have a few of those. Here we go, wisp in a bottle. Ooh, that looks cool. Oh wait, a creeper egg? Let's try. Ah, this is it. I have a whole squad now. Should you get a name? You'll be Yami. With my full support squad by my side and my gear upgrades, it was time to try tackling the Moonlord again. All things considered, I did much better, but I still wasn't able to dodge his beam a single time. Somewhere within the last few days, I even crafted butterfly wings, thinking they might be faster than the fairy ones, but that didn't help either. I immediately summoned him again, and this time nearly killed 2 of his eyes and dodged a total of 1 beam, but still ended up dying. The next few attempts were all trying slightly different things to try to improve. The next attempt was trying to dodge the beam in space to float over the Moonlord's head. The one after that used my melee mount to help output DPS and outrun some of the damage, and this one seemed to work pretty well, and it looked like I could just almost outrun the laser entirely. I knew I was short on summoning supplies, and I was honestly curious how much better my setup was now after farming the old man's army, so I took on the lunatic cultists again. This time I used my DPS mount and just unloaded as much as I could. At one point I hit a clone and summoned the dragon, but killed it off insanely quickly, and for the most part just had to stand still and could out DPS the boss. I quickly took down the pillars and prepped for the Moonlord, this time trying my unicorn mount and the running strategy I used for the mechanical bosses. If I got too far away from him, he would teleport back to me. Depending on when he teleported, I would sometimes get hit with the laser, but I was dodging most of the other damage, so it wasn't too bad. When I reached the end of the path, I had teleported home and had intended to start running the other way. But when I got there, I was right next to the nurse. If I used her to kill quickly, I flew up, got back on my mount, and was off in the other direction. This turned out to be super helpful as I was able to outrun his beam and most damage most of the time, but if I got clipped, I could teleport home to heal and reset. After killing the 3 eyes, his chest opened up. At this point, his eyes floated around and each did a death beam that hit like a truck. I focused less on damage at this point and more on staying alive and letting my dragon do damage where he could. I didn't realize it because I was so nervous at the time, but I took much less damage overall in this phase because I was able to consistently outrun the beams from the 2 eyes. Even through this mess, I was able to survive and keep going. Oh man, heal. I stuck it out and was able to finally finish off the Moon Lord. It took 112 days to complete Expert Mode with a lot of mistakes along the way. If you'd like to see more, maybe a Master Mode run, please let me know in the comment section down below, and don't forget to subscribe.